Hi, before we get into the video, I want to say there are some serious warnings about using this mushroom in a recreational way. And the first is both use the same pathways in the brain, alcohol and Amanita. So please do not drink alcohol. If you are an alcoholic, you probably shouldn't use this mushroom, and don't use alcohol at least 2 days before and after. We're still not sure about carbonated beverages, so until we can figure that out, probably best that you avoid them. If you are taking benzodiazepine drugs, they follow the exact same pathways in the brain, and you could wind up overdosing on your benzos because of this drug, or causing some severe unwelcome reactions. I strongly discourage you using this mushroom recreationally if you are on benzodiazepines. If you are trying to get off of benzodiazepines, then this is the natural version that the pharmaceutical companies used to make that class of drugs. So take that and do with that what you will. If you are under 25, it is best that you do not recreationally dose this mushroom. It is not like any of the others, for reasons we will get into, and it is not about maturity, it is about brain chemistry. This is absolutely for harm reduction, and I'm not saying that to appease the YouTube gods. I am saying that for you. This mushroom is not like any of the psychedelics or any other mushroom, and there are some serious warnings that you need to pay attention to, preparation techniques that are vital to using this mushroom, and tread lightly here. Make sure you do your research. This is not medical advice. This is not advice at all. I am not condoning the recreational use of this mushroom. I am not a mycologist. You are responsible for your identification. I am not a doctor or a pharmacist. I am not responsible for how you prepare this mushroom, or if you choose to ingest this mushroom. I cannot give you personal advice. Please see your own healthcare person or professional before you do this. You will see why when we get into this video. Now that that's out of the way and important, here we go. Hi, beautiful people. So you want to recreational dose Amanita muscaria. You're getting a lot of varying information and conflicting information. So my entire channel is devoted to this mushroom, and it's not based on stories and just stuff on the internet. It's based in research. And if you want to know what my channel is about and what our methods are, and all of us that are doing this and crowdsourcing it and researching it, go to my video on Amanita lore versus science to understand how I got to this. I have been in a unique position since I started this channel to not only be able to understand the research, I have a science background, but also because since I've started the channel, I've had a lot of other people join me in going through the research. And on my Facebook page, you've been dropping the research there, and we've been able to get a lot of eyes on it. And then we've also got finally got our website, and we have a research wiki there, and we have a forum there. And I've had people writing to me and messaging me, plus I've read the things that you've read on the internet. I'm going to tell you something surprising. Most of what you're reading on the internet about 15 grams being a recreational dose is so wrong. What we're learning about this mushroom is that its therapeutic effects in microdosing is very small, and then recreational doses are also, the threshold is very small. So what you have to understand about this mushroom is it's just a mushroom, and the fungal kingdom is an entire classification kingdom. It's huge. It's just as large as the animal kingdom and the plant kingdom. So just because psilocybin mushrooms are mushrooms doesn't mean they're anything like the Amanita muscaria. They're just two completely different living organisms. So I'm going to get into a little bit of the science. If you don't want to understand it, I will put the timestamp in the description and you can skip this. So the thing about psilocybin is it's the one active ingredient, and it affects one neurotransmitter, and it only works in the brain. And the more you take, the more the effects you get, and the more intense they get. Well, with Amanita muscaria, obviously you have the ibotenic acid and then you have the muscimol. And everyone has been saying you got to get rid of the ibotenic acid completely. It's toxic. In low doses, it has therapeutic effects. Ibotenic acid actually does good things to the body, but it's limited. And the more you take of it, then it gets into the toxic range, and then it gets into the damaging range. And I'll make another video about the science on that and the damage it can do. And then muscimol is good at therapeutic levels in microdoses, and the more of it you take, then you start to get into the realm of recreational and getting the hallucinogenic, but also the trip effects of some massive, deep inner cleansing stuff emotionally. But even muscimol in higher doses starts to become damaging. So you can't just say the ibotenic acid is toxic and damaging and muscimol is safe. It just doesn't work like that. It's very dose dependent, and it seems to be like this balancing thing, right? So muscimol can absolutely do harm, where ibotenic acid can do some long-term and in some cases permanent damage. It's looking like muscimol can only do long-term damage if you take a high enough dose, or more, in some cases microdose too close together for too long, or you're sort of in between a micro and recreational for too long. It builds up, and then it can start to do some serious damage. So knowing this, and what we're finding out now is the recreational dose and the therapeutic dose for ibotenic acid muscimol and recreationally is still very low. However, I'm going to put this timestamp so people that are going forward are going to land here. Here's the thing about that ibotenic acid muscimol balance and the low level doses. Dosing this mushroom where psilocybin doesn't care about your brain chemistry. It's going to hijack your serotonin, and it's going to do what it needs to do. Well, because Amanita muscaria affects the GABA pathways, and it is a GABA agonist, and your acetylcholine pathways, you're dealing with, that's just two. There are still many more neurotransmitters in the brain that it affects, and there's so many that science still doesn't know what they all are yet. But in addition to affecting the brain, it actually affects the entire body. And there's one article now that is suggesting that ibotenic acid is decarboxylated into muscimol in the neurons, in your nerve cells, in between them, in the synapses, in your body. So up until now, we thought that only the liver did the converting. But now it's hinting that the conversion's actually happening throughout the entire body. Also, ibotenic acid and muscimol affects the gut and the smooth muscles that surround your organs, and it can send them into intense spasms that can be pretty severe. Not just ibotenic acid, muscimol as well. So this is why it's a complex mushroom. I consider it a more advanced mushroom. It's also why if you have experience with psilocybin, it won't translate, because those work on serotonin, and this works on so many things. Also, this mushroom is highly dependent on your existing brain chemistry and body chemistry and how those things are working and speaking to each other. And those things are highly variable depending on the foods that you eat, the stressful situations that you live in, any trauma you've experienced in your life, any PTSD you could be living with. I mean, there's so many things. So that's why some people are taking 15 grams and getting absolutely nothing, and some people are taking a half a cup, the way that I show how to make it in my video, and getting an amazing, beautiful experience. Some people are microdosing and getting what some would say is a recreational dose. So I've gotten some flack and some people, you know, coming at me angry saying I just wasted a whole bunch of mushrooms because of you, because I got nothing. It's not me. It's not my fault. This is how this mushroom is. Also, what we're starting to understand is there's this 10-day thing. So if you've been microdosing and you want to recreational dose, there's a decent chance you're not going to get much out of it if you've taken any in the last 10 days. So if you want to recreational dose, if you've been microdosing or if you've recreational dosed before, You need to give it a good 10 days to let all of those levels sort of reset and come back to normal levels before you recreational dose. There's also some issues with potency. So if you happen to have gotten some mushrooms that are in the very last fruiting, you'll have to see my video on some science where I discuss the chemistry of it if you care to know why. But the ones that fruit first are going to be the most potent, and the ones that fruit last in the season are going to be the least potent. Also, we're looking at some research that says that the amount of ibotenic acid in muscimol starts to degrade over time, the longer that they've been stored. But what I'm seeing shows that those drops are really minute, and I don't think they'll matter, a year later. Also, there's lemon tech. So if you want to convert more of that ibotenic acid into muscimol to have a better chance of your low dose, recreational dose working, then look at the lemon tech. We know that it's pH dependent. So look at the one on drying, how to dry and why to dry. I've got 2 videos on drying. So if you've got questions, look at my videos first. Chances are they're already answered. So the way that we are learning people get the best results from this thing is to microdose first. Because of all of those complex systems in the brain and in the body being all over the place, there seems to be like this adaptogenic effect of this mushroom where it is leveling those systems out in microdosing, and you have a much better chance of getting a very good therapeutic and good feeling experience recreational dosing if you microdose first. I have a video on microdosing, watch that one. Start there, and then you have to listen to your body. That's the other thing, and that makes sense because when you're just hijacking serotonin, with psilocybin mushrooms, doesn't matter what's going on in your body. You don't have to microdose it. It just grabs your serotonin, cranks it up, and you get this experience. And because this mushroom is so complex, has 2 active ingredients, among others, there's still more, and it's affecting so many parts of the brain and body that it would make sense if you've got 3 that are out of whack here and that are really low, and then your body isn't processing this right and you're missing an enzyme for that and everything's all over the place, you're going to get a very erratic result when you take a recreational dose, and that would make sense. So it makes more sense if you really want to do this well and do it right and limit your losses and limit the bad experience, that you just be patient with this thing. That, like I said, it's an advanced mushroom. You don't just, it's not simple. You don't just grab it, take it, woo, that's just the way it is. So if you microdose and listen to your body, you'll know. So this mushroom seems to have a really strong voice in its ability to communicate and let you know what's up. So when you're looking for dosing information, it's extremely personal. And when you get into the comments on my videos and you go to our forum and you start reading, you're going to see that repeated over and over and over. It is just a highly personal mushroom. And it makes sense because of how complex the body is in its reactions to it and what it does. So start out microdosing. If you are just determined to do a recreational dose and you don't want to mess with microdosing, well, okay. But don't blame me when you get really erratic results. I warned you. But if that's what you're going to do, and you have decided to do 15 grams, let me tell you this. I'm going to make up a statistic, but it's based on anecdotal evidence and information that I've finally been able to gather now over this period of time that I've been getting stories from people, and it's this. It's looking like about 5% are getting absolutely nothing at the 15 gram. It's looking like 80% are getting extremely toxic effects from it. Some of them are winding up in the hospital with seizures or such severe muscle spasms that they were scared and in so much pain they had to go to the hospital. The throwing up and the nausea is the least of your concerns because you can get rid of the ibotenic acid and sort of mitigate that, but the muscimol is going to cause such severe cramping of your intestines and your internal organs that you would probably need to go to the hospital to get relief from that. That's the other thing we're seeing. We're seeing some people get just parts of the recreational dose, like the depersonalization and hallucinatory effects, but then also these extreme physical effects to the point where they're disoriented, but they're in so much physical pain that they need help and they don't know how to get it because they're so disoriented and depersonalized that they are confused, they don't know where they are, and they don't know how to get help. So, and this is about 80%. So if you are watching this and you did 15 grams and it was great, well, good for you, but I wouldn't recommend anyone do that and take that chance. You got lucky. What we're also seeing is people that can do a 15-gram dose once and get nothing, and then they tried it again, wound up in that 80% with toxic effects or in severe pain, or in some cases seizures. So you can't say, well, I had a great time on it once, so I can do that again. It's variable. So in addition to it being a highly personal mushroom, it also changes how it treats you day to day, week to week, month to month. And that's because all these complex systems are constantly in flux and in motion depending on the amount of sleep that you're getting, the amount of exercise you're getting, the diet that you're eating, the stress level that you are under, any PTSD that you're suffering from, and all these things are changing constantly, and these levels are changing constantly. So it's a highly variable mushroom, and there's no one-size-fits-all dosing. Again, it's not dose dependent. You can't say, well, it didn't affect me at 1 gram, 2, 3, 5, 8. That means it will at 15. It just doesn't work that way. There's a decent chance if you've made it the way that I make it, and you start with your microdose and you've taken 3 to 4 times your microdose and you still don't feel anything, you're not going to. Don't push yourself like that into these toxic or dangerous ranges. There's just no reason to, because you just don't have a very good chance that you're going to get anything out of it at this time. Drop back, microdose. Change your life circumstances and situations, because this mushroom has the ability to clean out some really deep stuff. Watch my trip report to learn about that. And watch the microdosing video about what some of the research is saying about all the things that it can do for you. If you do this 2 or 3 times and you've gotten up to 3 times your microdose and you don't feel anything, then I'm not going to recommend you take any more than that. I can't do it because of YouTube, I can't do it for legal reasons, but also me personally, from what I know, I wouldn't do it if you were my best friend just sitting here. And I will never in good conscience be able to tell anyone to take high doses. Not after what I know now and what I've seen from the research. And I'm hoping to change society and all that bad information on the internet about this. There's just no reason to do high doses of this mushroom. It's a lie, it's a fallacy. It just keeps getting spread and told over and over and over because of those few that actually were okay. They happen to pass through the eye of the needle in that really rare situation and be okay, but it's just not the way this mushroom works. And this is why in history, shaman were the ones that did this, whereas the psilocybin, people could just grab them and eat them or dry them and eat them. But this one, the reason why you see so much about it being, you know, the Santa Claus mushroom and all of that lore and all of the good that it did is because the shaman were the ones that had the control of this thing, because it was handed down. The knowledge of this mushroom was handed down to them generation after generation for thousands and thousands of years of humans using it. And they have knowledge that's lost, that we're still trying to piece back together today. And on our wiki and on our forum, we're asking for First Peoples to please come share your information and help us try to remember it and get this put together in a way that because what we're seeing are some First Peoples accounts are matching the science, and it's amazing. It's beautiful. Of course it does. It's just fascinating to me to put what was handed down orally, oral tradition and knowledge of medicine, to be borne out now in the science of it. Both are just fascinating. I don't know, you know, where my numbers will be when you're seeing this, but it's kind of obvious YouTube isn't, I'm not going to be able to monetize very many of my videos. And I have a lot of work. We have our website and we have, you know, a lot of research that I want to do. I need to hire some help and work with some other people. And I want to grow this channel and grow this knowledge base. And I kind of need some help to do it. I'm not big enough yet to get into Patreon. So if you could look in the description, check out our merch, that would be fantastic. I love you, beautiful people, and be well. Take care of yourself and have fun. Do it safely. And if you want to share your trip reports on our forum, we're all ears. Bye.